Be confident, be bold, be authentic, but don't forget to take action. This is Ordinary to Badass, where our stories empower women to step into the spotlight of their own lives and pursue what they're truly passionate about. It's time to step into the arena and become more than just extraordinary. It's time to become a badass with your host, Marie Sonneman.
Welcome to Ordinary to Badass, episode number 299. In this episode, you're going to hear from Dr. Annette Copeland. Now, Dr. Annette, she helps people to break the cycles, break harmful cycles, and cultivate flourishing lives instead. And she also talks a lot about like trauma and ending emotional abuse. So make sure, tune into this episode. It's so good. And guess what? Before we get there, I got to tell you this. Well, you just heard it's episode 299, but how exciting is that? I'm pumped. I can't even believe episode 299. That's knuckin' butts. I don't know. It blows my mind. And I didn't even know that I could do one episode. And so I started this with like a lot of hesitancy, and I was just unsure that I could do this. And it really is just like a testament to put one foot in front of the other, because take one step at a time. One step, you might not know that it's possible. You might not see the whole thing. And the first step feels terrifying. And then the next thing you know, you're 299 episodes later, right? That's insane. It blows my mind. I don't know. Never would I have ever thought I would have a podcast in the first place, let alone almost 300 episodes. So I want to encourage you today to step out of your comfort zone, to do something that feels a little bit terrifying, to do something that you want to do, but you're scared. Maybe it's something that you're encouraging everybody else around you to do because you're scared to do it yourself. That's what I did. I told everybody else to start a podcast. And that's what happens sometimes. And all it takes is like one person to breathe light into it, or one little like taking a step forward in fear. You just have courage for 1 minute, right? And you do the thing. And then who knows where it ends up? Who knows how it turns out? But you just keep doing it. So, okay, I had to get that out there because I'm so excited that we're almost at the 300th episode. So if you're loving this podcast, I'd love it. Head over to iTunes, leave a 5-star rating and a review. Because seriously, you're the most badass group of people that I know. And so let's do this together and have other badasses that can find this show. All right, with that, let's get to it. Let's hear from Dr. Annette. Welcome to Ordinary to Badass. Whether you're ordinary or badass, I'm so glad you're here. Today's guest is Annette Copeland. Annette, thank you so much for being here. Excited to have you on the show.
Hi, I'm excited to be here.
So before we go any further, I've got to ask you, do you consider yourself ordinary or badass?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I would say that I'm a badass.
Have you always felt that way?
No, not at all.
Was it like one event that made you feel like a badass, or was it a series of events over time?
I don't think I realized what I had accomplished in life until I actually sat down and started trying to write a bio for myself when I wrote my book. And I started writing down all of the things that I'd accomplished. And I was like, oh my gosh, wow, you are a badass. Like, look at all of these things that you've done. And I had never taken credit really internally for any of those things. So it was a really cool process to do that.
Yeah. And so I talked to Seisha Rogers. She was previously on the Ordinary to Badass podcast. And she was saying like, well, actually some of her struggles, some of her hardships were what made her feel like a badass. Was that true at all for you when you were writing your bio and you looked back at some of the things?
Like some of the things that we've endured through or worked our way through? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, like what made you feel like a badass? Was it like the hardships that you went through and overcame, or what was it?
I think just realizing that I had accomplished so many things, and it wasn't that I accomplished them in a like a rough and tough, like badass way. But just looking back through all of the things that I had done and had accomplished just really gave me a sense of like worth and well-being, and just like I was a little surprised at all of the things that I had done that I had never really like taken inside of me and been like, wow, you really did a good job. It's funny how we don't compliment ourselves very often.
Right, right. So, to beers, take that in. Maybe sit down and write yourself a bio. Write the things that you've been through, the things you've overcome, your accomplishments that you've had, because that can be a reminder of your badassery. So I love that.
Yeah. And try writing it in the third person. And something else that I found that was kind of interesting was there are free services out there that are they're AI. And like even Canva has an AI option in their documents. And what I did was I wrote a short bio, just like one sentence about myself. And then I threw it into an AI program and let it create a bio for me. And it was mind blowing because it used words I wouldn't have used, because I would have never gone to that level of awareness, about myself, because, we don't really talk, we don't brag about ourselves. But when I threw it into that AI and let it do it, I was just like, whoa, that is so cool.
Right? Yeah. And then maybe you can like start incorporating those words that made you feel powerful, or maybe like, oh yeah, this is true. You can start incorporating it how you define yourself.
Yes, for sure. Because the AI has no personal emotional attachment to the things that it does. So it's going to use the best words that it can come up with. And I thought it was pretty cool that some of the words that it came up with, I would have never applied to myself. But then I was like, yeah, that is so true. I am a badass.
I love it. I love it. So already this is so good. Can't wait to dig in. Will you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
So I'm by trade, I'm a board certified naturopathic doctor. So I have a long history of working with people on the root cause of illness or health, or however you want to say it. But over the years, working with people, I realized that many of the times when people are struggling or going back to dealing with the same type of health concerns over and over again, especially when they don't have an understanding or a reason as to why it happens, that it's emotional. There are a lot of things that can happen to your body physically when you're in an emotional situation, or if you have suffered through trauma, or if you're under a lot of stress. So there are things that can change your hormones. There are things that can change the way your brain functions. And I'm learning through this process of helping people that most often, if you can clear out those incorrect beliefs about ourselves, or those self-deprecating thoughts, or those repetitive patterns, if you can get to the root cause of the emotional side of things, oftentimes the body finds a way to heal because it's not so busy dealing with all of that other stuff. So our bodies are amazing at doing the things they're supposed to do when they're not bogged down with trauma and toxic behaviors and things like that.
So how would somebody go about trying to clear patterns?
Well, typically, unless you have experience dealing with that, you would probably need to speak to someone who does, because, I mean, face it, a lot of us have been on a self-growth pattern or whatever, like a path of self-awareness for many years, but we still struggle and we still get stuck. And there are hurdles that we just can't seem to bust through. And part of that is because, like I said with the AI thing, we don't have the awareness or the words in our own self to get through that little wall that we're up against. So a lot of times hiring a coach or visiting with a therapist, or just like joining a group of women that are really in tune with that sort of thing can be extremely helpful.
And what is the benefit of clearing out patterns?
Well, if your body is consistently struggling with stress, for one, stress is a really good example. Cortisol that comes from stress or toxic situations, if you're in a relationship or a work environment that has a lot of toxic behavior going on, then that cortisol can cause a lot of damage. It can cause short-term memory loss, which is typically not permanent, but over years and years and years, if you're in an abusive situation, it can cause long-term memory problems in your short-term memory. As well as stress, a lot of times the cortisol, again, affects your blood sugar levels. So it can cause issues with those types of hormones, as well as male and female hormones. So just stress alone can affect all of those areas of your life. And stress can come in many forms. So if it's from, say you have like chronic PTSD from some sort of a long-term living situation or a job that was very traumatic to you, or if you grew up in a household where people were very unpredictable and you didn't know what was going to happen next, that would be a good example of somebody. And one of the things that I tell people is that they kind of get stuck in fight or flight. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. Like their body is stuck in fight or flight mode. And if that's the case, then you're going down a path where you're going to start having health issues. You're going to start seeing symptoms of those things arising in your life. And the longer you stay in that stressful pattern, the more those things are going to show up.
I think sometimes people have a problem asking for help, or they think that it makes them look weak to ask for help. They might recognize they have this chronic stress or this issue going on. What would you say to that if they're afraid to reach out to get for help or to get help?
Well, first of all, every person on this planet deals with stress. And some of us were given better tools than others in our childhood to manage that stress. So if you find that you're dealing with stress, find a group on Facebook that has something to do with what you do in your lifestyle. Find a community of people that you can talk to so that you don't feel so alone. Hire a coach, do those things. And you'll find if you just start paying attention that other people are struggling as well. And you're never really alone. There's always somebody who can at least relate to your situation, even if it's not exactly the same as theirs.
Yeah. And I know they say like shame lives in the darkness, like if you're not bringing it up, you're not saying anything to anybody else, you're going to feel all this shame. And then once you get, like you said, into a Facebook group or with a counselor or therapist, you start to realize, oh my gosh, all these other people are struggling with the same exact thing that I've been struggling with. And it's not so isolating.
Right. Yeah. If you shed a little bit of light on that, then the shame has an opportunity to be seen. And maybe what you've been beating yourself up about for all of this time is really not even something worth beating yourself up about. You know, and one of the things I used to tell my daughter when she was in school was it is perfectly normal to be different. And I always wanted her to know that it is normal to feel the feelings that she was having and to experience the things that she was experiencing, because I think going through school, especially grade school and middle school, kids are kind of taught to walk in a straight line, do all of these things step by step and in patterns. And if they don't fit into that mold, then they feel shame because they don't fit in and they're not the same as everyone else. But we're not supposed to be the same at all. None of us are.
And I once heard somebody say, and I can't remember who it was, but he's like, the very things that we're made fun of for as a kid is the thing that we're idolized for as an adult, or it makes you cool as an adult.
True. Yeah. I know I always joke around about, you see those memes that say, when I was a kid, I really hated going to bed at 9 p.m. because I really felt like everything happened after 9 p.m. And now that I'm an adult, if I have to stay up past 9 p.m., I'm angry. It's like wrong.
So you said that you're a board certified naturopathic doctor. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
What led you to go down that path?
Well, when I was like 30, I got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. which was an incorrect diagnosis based on symptoms. And I was really like very, very medically minded. Like I was always the person people came to and asked questions about if they were like at work and they were like, I have a sore throat. What do you think I should do? So I was always the person who was telling people how to take care of stuff like that. So when I got diagnosed with an actual label illness and nothing seemed to really fit for me, I was like, I don't know about this. 5 years in, I was taking so many pills and I didn't feel any better. And I just made up my mind that I wasn't going to take all those pills anymore. So I started looking into natural ways to feel better. And then I was fortunate enough to meet a doctor who was a chiropractor who taught functional medicine to other chiropractors. And meeting him was definitely a pivotal point in my life. I only got to know him for about a year and a half before he passed away, but that year and a half, he taught me so much. And he was the reason that I decided to go to school for naturopathy. It's because I wanted natural ways to help people and myself. And it really seemed to fit well with my ideology of what I thought life should be like. So it was a perfect fit, and I'm glad I did it.
Yeah. And I don't know if you went to him like after you got the diagnosis or how that came about, but I think it's interesting because so often we go to one doctor and whatever they say, we think, oh, that's got to be it. They're the professional. That has to be it. And we don't investigate or go somewhere else to try to see if there's a second opinion or a different way of going about it. So I love that you did that. What did that like open up for you, or what did that provide for you?
Well, it also, in another way, it made me feel like I wasn't crazy. Because at one point they were like, well, we don't really know what to do with you anymore. We know that you have joint pain. We know that you're extremely tired. We know that you have these symptoms, but the only thing we know to give you is this antidepressant. So here you go. Have a nice day. And I was like, no, I'm not depressed. I don't feel well. So I struggled with that. And of course, I didn't take the antidepressants because I knew that that wasn't going to help. Actually, it could make matters worse. So I just decided that I was going to start figuring it out on my own. And it wasn't until about 5 years after that that I met this doctor. His name was Dr. Jack Kessinger. And just being in his world and his wife's world, Virginia, they kind of opened up some things that I didn't even know were possible. And that's how I ended up in the natural medicine world, was by following their example and watching how many people they were improving the quality of life for, which was really amazing to see.
So do you have a naturopathy practice? Are you coaching people? What are you doing?
I don't actually practice like I can. I have an office I can go to if I want to, but most of the stuff that I do is online. And I do consultations occasionally for people. Of course, I look at blood work. I can look at any kind of diagnostic testing and give them some ideas on questions that they might ask if they do have a physician already. And I incorporate those kinds of things with the emotional intelligence, the generational healing of those patterns that we've been handed down. They're finding nowadays that DNA is not the biggest way that things are passed down to us from our ancestors. It's only about 15 to 20%. The other 80 to 85% comes from generational patterns. It's the way you live, the foods you eat, the lifestyle that you do that is more effective in changing your health than just DNA alone.
So if you're looking to change generational patterns or even to like look at it, that's something that people would hire a coach or hire somebody like you to do. Is that right?
Yeah, I occasionally get people that say things like, oh, well, I'm going to have diabetes because that's what my mom had and her mom before her and her mom before her. Well, there may be a little bit of a predisposition to that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to follow their path. You can learn and educate yourself and change the amount, the 80 to 85%, you can change that and reduce those odds, reduce that risk factor. And the same thing about generational patterns of toxicity and like patterns of worry. My grandma was a worrier, and I picked up that trait from her as a young child, and I worried myself sick for years. So those types of things can also affect your health, of course. And those are the kinds of things that I try to help people work through. So I'm more interested in whole person health. So I want you to be nutritionally sound and understand how to feed the cells of your body so that it works properly. But I also want to clear out the toxicity that you have from the patterns and the lifestyle choices that you make that can also 10x the nutritional changes that you're making in your life. So it's a big thing. It's not just one thing at a time. And I find when people look at themselves in a holistic way, mind, body, and spirit, they have much better recovery from those things that they seem to drag around with them.
Yeah, and I think that holistic has a different way of looking at things, and it seems, maybe I'm completely off, but it seems like they have more time to look at the whole person, to look at the whole issue, as opposed to just like you go into a regular doctor and you got 5-10 minutes, and then you're in and out without looking at all the other external factors.
Yeah, depending on who you go to for natural or functional type medicine, your office visit's going to be anywhere from an hour to 2 hours typically. They're going to want to talk to you about your whole health history. They're going to want to know what types of things you've been exposed to, what kinds of illnesses maybe that you have been diagnosed with that may or may not apply. They want to know all of the things. And that's the best way to get to the root of a problem for someone. And knowing if you've been traumatized by something in your life plays into that as well, because you can detoxify your body and you can also detoxify your mind if you go through the steps to do that. And that's where real health starts to come into play.
What is the most common problem that people come to you with, and what's the solution that you give them?
I would say people find me most often because they've gained some weight that they can't seem to lose. And it seems like typically it's women between 40 and 60 that come talk to me about that. And they're either like, I think I have some sort of hormonal imbalance, which could be anywhere from adrenals to thyroid to female hormones. Of course, those are all tied together. And then, they also can say, I've tried everything to lose weight and nothing is working. And that's when we start looking into what kind of habits do they really have? Do they have some underlying things that are going on? And is there an emotional component to the reason why they're holding on to that weight that they can't seem to lose? So it's really, more than just one approach to figuring that out.
Yeah. Yeah. You touched on habits there. I love hearing about habits or different ways that people can develop habits. What would you suggest, or what do you tell your clients?
Well, first of all, the best thing you can do is figure out what your goal is. Like, what's your end goal? And then figure out why that end goal is so important for you. If you don't understand why you want to achieve that goal, like say you want to lose 50 pounds and you don't have a passionate reason for doing that, it's going to be really difficult to say no the next time somebody says, hey, you want a cookie? But if you have a passionate reason why, you're going to be a whole lot better at saying, nope, I have a goal. I'm trying to reach it. I'm going to pass this time, maybe next time. So I try to get people to really dig deep and figure out what it is about their life that gets them excited about doing that. If it's losing 50 pounds, what are you going to be able to do 50 pounds from now that you can't do right now? Are you going to be able to wear something that you wanted to wear that you haven't been able to wear? Are you going to be able to do things like ride rides at the carnival with your grandchildren or your children? Are you going to be able to do whatever? Like, what is it that you're going to get? What's your reward for achieving that goal? And can you get really passionate about that reward so that you have a reason to stick to it? I think I might have gotten off track there, but I hope that was helpful.
No, I think that's so good, because so often when we're going for a goal, we look at all of the crap. Like, oh my gosh, I don't want to have to do this. I'm not going to be able to have this. And we focus on all of the negative or the downside without focusing on the reward. What's the end path? What's going to make you happy or bring joy? And so I think that's helpful to focus on the reward.
Yeah. And I hope this is okay, but I have a free goal setting workshop on my website that people can go do. And it literally walks you through the steps of how to create a goal that helps you make daily habits. And then you celebrate those daily habits when you achieve them. There's no punishment involved. It's only about celebration, but it helps you set goals that are achievable on the short term. So if you want to lose 50 pounds, how are you going to do that? You don't just wake up tomorrow and go, I'm going to lose 50 pounds. And then it just starts to fall off. You have to come up with a plan. So if you have goals that are created properly, losing 50 pounds might be the goal, but what small goals can you do on a daily basis that will help you get one step closer to that? Is it drinking enough water? Is it getting the right amount of sleep? Is it maybe talking to a therapist and letting go of some of those things that you've been holding on to that are also keeping you holding on to the weight? So you need to figure out what your triggers are, what you can do to improve your life. And I typically tell people add one new habit a week or maybe every couple of days. Like, don't just go make a list of 10 habits and be like, this is it. I'm doing these 10 things every single day, because it's overwhelming and it's too much. But if you can just start implementing one new habit until you get that one, and then go to a next one and just keep tiering them on top of each other, because we all know that losing 50 pounds requires more than one thing. You can't drink water until you lose 50 pounds. So you have to find the things that are going to get you where you want to go, and then find ways to make those daily habits doable, and then also celebrate them when you have achieved them on a daily basis.
Yeah. And I like that idea of taking space for your habits, instead of doing them all in the same day. Because I know in the past I have like, okay, I'm changing it all. And I go like extreme and change it all. Well, when I quit one habit, then I quit the other, because I started them at the same time and associate them with each other. And so I'm like, okay, it's all out the door.
Yeah. Well, and when things become work, you're less likely to do them.
Yeah, true. So earlier you mentioned this idea, or this, that you used to worry yourself sick. What do you do now when worry comes up?
Well, I recognize, first of all, that I have a trigger that causes me to worry. And I'm one of those people that does the ruminating thoughts, where it just keeps spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning. And I've had to learn to recognize that, first of all, recognize it as a behavior that's not healthy for me. It doesn't feel good. It makes me anxious and just a wreck, really. So I recognize that I'm doing it, first step. And then I typically either will use like what I call a stop technique, where I'm like, okay, stop. And then I'm like, why are you doing this? Does this matter in this moment? And typically it does not. So then I will find a way to change the topic or get to the bottom of what that feeling is. Instead of just dwelling on it and letting it just like stir and stir and stir, I stop and I'm like, okay, I see you. You're upsetting me. Let's figure out why. And then I either give myself, and this is one of the habits that I love to teach people, is if you find yourself at night fretting about something, just worrying and worrying and worrying, and you can't sleep because you can't turn off your mind, what you can do is write it down and then tell yourself, tomorrow, I'm going to schedule time to worry. You can do it on your lunch break. You can do it before work, after work, whatever. But schedule 10 minutes to worry. The rest of the time, you're not allowed. Nope, not doing it. When the time comes, you set an alarm You sit down for 10 minutes and you just worry yourself crazy. Just worry about every possible thing that could go wrong. And then when 10 minutes is up, you're like, okay, I'm done. And it's amazing how that 10 minutes of quiet time with yourself, just allowing yourself to think of every possible thing that could go wrong, makes you start to be like, no, that's not going to happen. That's not true. And then you start realizing that all that worry wasn't really doing anything. And it makes it easier to focus on the important things when you're like, no, I get to worry at noon. The rest of the day, I'm working on me, or I'm working on work, or whatever.
So good. Oat to beers. Don't be afraid to schedule your worry. Sometimes, if I'm being honest, I feel like that's my meditation time. You just sit down and then like all these thoughts keep coming to your head, but at least it's time you're like setting aside and getting it all out so you don't have to think about it for the rest of the day. So you mentioned stop technique, and you said you tell yourself to stop. You said, does this matter? And was there a third step?
Well, I kind of think about it as, is this going to matter 3 weeks from now, a year from now, 5 years from now? It depends on how big the problem is that you're worrying about. But if you can catch yourself in that state and stop the habit, because it's really what it is it's a habit. And we get used to that self-torture and that stirring up of emotions, and the shame and the guilt usually are attached to those kinds of things that just keep spinning. So if we can realize that maybe there shouldn't be shame or guilt attached to that, it's more of a process of changing the habit. So you realize that you're doing it, you stop yourself, and then you focus on something different. That's like the 3-step technique to stop that bad habit. Realize it, stop it, and then change your thought pattern. Go to something that's enjoyable for you, or literally just sit down and process the feeling, which would be ideal, but that's not always applicable. Like you can't just do that at a stoplight driving down the road. You're like, oh, I have to take 10 minutes and process this emotion. It doesn't always work that way. So, but if you're trying to just stop the habit, then you want to stop it. You want to realize that it's there, and then just be like, okay, we're going to deal with you later. I'm not going to spend all of this energy worrying about something that I can't control. And then I'll give myself permission to worry later. And then that lets you get on with your day. And then when it's time to sit down and worry, sometimes you're like, I'm not even worried anymore. Like it's gone. And that's a good thing.
So you mentioned this idea of processing the emotion. For the listeners that don't know what that means or what they would do to process the emotion, can you expand on it?
Well, sometimes it needs a little bit of help, but the best thing I can say is if you realize that you're having some sort of a reaction to something, some people will say that you're being triggered or whatever, it's important to realize what that trigger is. So say somebody that you work with spends a lot of time standing around the water cooler chit-chatting, and it gets under your skin. And you're just like, I wish they would go work. Like I'm working. Why aren't they working? How come they get to stand by the water cooler and gab with all these other people, and I'm over here working? I don't really like this feeling. Then you're like, okay, why does their talking by the water cooler bother you? Like, what is it? Is it that you wish you could stand by the water cooler and talk to people? Is it that you feel guilty if you're not working every minute of every day when you're at work? Like, what is the underlying feeling that you have? If it's guilt or shame, then you can actually like, okay, I feel guilty because I'm not working if I go stand by the water cooler. Where did that come from? Did somebody tell you at some point in your life that you were lazy or that you're not supposed to do that? Or maybe somebody said in passing, oh, chatty Cathy over there, like where did it come from? Was it an experience you had or just something someone said that you picked up on? And then realize if it's not even yours, like if you got it from someone else and you're borrowing guilt from someone else, give it back. Like, I don't want that. Let it go. But sometimes you just have to cry it out. Like, I feel shame. Okay, just cry it out. Figure out where the shame is coming from. you may not know. You may not have any idea where that shameful feeling is coming from. And I'm here to tell you that if you don't even know where it came from, it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to somebody somewhere in your world who let you use their shame for a day and you just never let it go. You just adopted it as part of who you are. And you don't have to keep that. You don't have to keep it at all.
Okay, so I'm going to repeat that because it was so good. If you're borrowing guilt, give it back. We don't have to hold on to other people's guilt or other people's stories. And we all do at some point and maybe just don't even recognize it, like stuff our parents told us or a teacher growing up. But yeah, if you're borrowing guilt, give it back. I love it. So powerful. Now, Annette, I'd like to pivot a little bit and talk about hardships. So often we see the social media world where everything is perfect and we don't see any of the hardships that people have gone through. And people look at you and be like, oh, well, Annette's a badass. She can do it. She's got it. But, she didn't ever have to go through anything hard. Or we think that naturally that we're the only ones that go through these hard things. Can you share a hardship that you've been through? It can be personal, professional, whatever, to get to where you are today.
Yeah. Have you ever heard the phrase, just because someone carries it well doesn't mean it's not heavy?
I love it.
Yeah. So I am a champion at looking like I have it all together on the outside. I've been that way my whole life. I used to be like a perfectionist and I was like OCD about everything. Having my daughter was the best blessing I ever received in my life because she made it impossible for me to be OCD. And it was almost like it was a badge that I wore. Being OCD meant I had everything in order and like things were in alphabetical order in my house. Like it was too much. And one of the things I think that I struggled with the most, and this is a phrase that's used a lot these days, especially with all the world of entrepreneurism that we're in, is imposter syndrome. I always felt like if I was going to tell someone how to live a better life or lose weight or be healthier, that I had to be the picture perfect postcard of what I was telling them to do. And it caused me a lot of grief, a lot of imposter syndrome, because I have some health issues that cause me problems from a life full of trauma. So as I'm working through those things, I'm learning a ton. And just because I don't weigh, like I had somebody tell me, you look pretty chubby for someone who does keto. Like, what kind of a statement is that? You don't know where I started. So I always tell people, you don't know what someone else has been through. You don't know the stairs they've had to climb. And imposter syndrome was probably my biggest hurdle to jump. And in all honesty, what really, really helped with that was coming to terms with I'm a unique individual. I have an amazing tool bag full of skills that I can use to help people. And I need to stop being hard on myself because nobody else is. Literally, nobody else is. It was all coming from in here. And I'm pointing at my chest for those that are listening. I was doing it to myself.
Yes, except for the a-hole that said you look pretty chubby for somebody that does keto. I think, I don't know. It's their own issue. It's their own judgment of their self that they're placing on somebody else. Probably. I don't know. But oftentimes when people say hurtful things or like stuff that just like hits us at the core, and maybe it's only hurtful if we believe that it's possibly true, but it takes some resilience or some work to like not let that hold you down. What do you do so that you don't let the haters like bring you down or bring your, so you don't start to believe it?
Yeah, well, something that I learned recently, and I think it may have been at a Kyle Cease event. I'm thinking this is where I pulled this from. He said, if someone says something mean to you, they're really saying it to themselves. So turn it around. That was the best explanation I've ever heard of the I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever. But so say that you have a parent who is consistently putting you down and always telling you, you are never going to amount to anything. Or if you're trying to start your own business and they're like, you're never going to succeed, you're always going to be broke, you're going to fail. Well, think about that as them saying that to themselves. They're telling you their personal beliefs and they're projecting them onto you. You don't have to choose to take those on. You can just note to yourself, okay, that's how that person feels. That's what their programming is telling them is going to happen. But I get to choose my own path, and I don't have to listen to the BS that they're putting out on me. That I don't have to wear that coat. I get to make my own.
Yeah, I like the concept of I don't have to wear that coat. I don't have to put that on. I don't have to make that my own. So that's good. Annette, I know you wrote a book. Tell us a little bit about your book.
My book. I love talking about my book. It's called Dragonfly Into the Light. It's a passion project of mine. I started writing it like in, I don't know, 2006 or something in that neighborhood. And it started as kind of like therapy for me. I started writing just as a way to get some thoughts out of my head. And I felt like being creative. And then life got busy and I just kind of put it on the shelf and I didn't mess with it for a while. When COVID happened, then I had all this free time. So I was like, what am I going to do with myself? And I thought, you know what? I should finish that book. Well, as the world should have it, I started having some thoughts and processes and things. I was processing some emotions as we all did during that time. And I realized that I wanted to write the book, not just for therapy for myself, but to raise awareness about emotional abuse and generational patterns in relationships with families, because it's something that people don't even know they're being exposed to. A lot of times when people are being emotionally abused, they don't even realize that's what happened to them until they've gotten out of the situation. And then they're like, wow, I had no clue that that was considered abusive. So I wanted to raise awareness around the topic. I wanted to give people some real life examples of what it looks like. And I chose to do it in a fictional way so that it was a fun, enticing story that like sucks you in and really gets you like to want to read the story. You really connect to the people in the book, but then also give you some helpful tips and hints on how you might start being more aware and being more open to healing and emotional intelligence of your own. That's really what I did. And I've had a couple people tell me, I don't think I've ever read a fictional self-help book before, but that's what I did. And it's been very well received. And a lot of people are saying that the things that were in there helped them realize that they get to choose the life they want to live. And it's up to them to make it happen.
So who is this book for? I know sometimes people don't realize, like you said, they don't realize it's emotional abuse. And so they don't know, they might not know to come to your book. What would be like an indicator that, you know, that this book is for them or that maybe they've experienced emotional abuse?
Well, first of all, it's just a fabulous story. So it's great for anyone to read.
Nice.
And I say that because I love it. Like even reading it myself, I was like, this is so good. It sounds a little conceited, but it's really not. I'm just super excited. But I would say that if you know someone who you think maybe is seeming a little down in the dumps for no reason, or maybe they're dealing with some family issues that just don't quite add up, it would be a great opportunity for them to read it and just see maybe they can connect with that. Or if someone's had maybe their childhood was a little bit on the rough side and they're trying to make the best of things and they're really wanting to do better for their future generations. It's just a great way to get that conversation started so that they can move into the next level of healing. And I think the book is written in a way that there's really no age limit. Like young people could read it as well. And I've had several women tell me that they read the book and they liked it so much that they gave it to their teenage daughter to read, because it's never too early to start recognizing those signs of emotional abuse, because it happens in high school, it happens early in our young adult lives, and it doesn't always come from our family. it can come from somebody that you dated in high school that just really ran you through the ringer. And at the time, you didn't know any better, especially young people. I speak about women mostly because I am one and I can relate mostly to that. But like young women, a lot of times get into relationships in high school that are toxic, and it changes the way they behave in every relationship after that. So what if we could help people understand what those things are earlier instead of later in life? I know so many women that are on a healing journey from trauma in their 70s because they never even knew. What if we could start raising awareness in high school or young adulthood so that maybe we can stop some of those traumatic things from happening and start raising a better generation of people that are able to process emotions and actually communicate their feelings with each other?
Yes, so good. And I liked how you even said, like, maybe if you know somebody where something seems off. I think that a lot of times your friends and family can spot something before you can, because you get in this, like, it's crazy making, right? You think that, oh, I'm just the one going crazy, like, because that's what the emotional abuser can make you feel, is that it's you. But like a lot of times friends and family have a clear perspective or picture on it. So definitely, yeah, give it to one of your friends or family if you think that they're experiencing emotional abuse. That's good. Where can they pick it up at?
It's available on Amazon. It's just called Dragonfly Into the Light by Annette Copeland. And it's on Kindle as well as paperback. I haven't done an Audible version yet, but that is eventually going to happen.
Okay, so let's end with a tip to encourage women who are in the arena fighting for the life that they want.
My biggest tip is you can create the life you desire if you're passionate about getting there. Create a reason. Find your why and attach that why to what you want, and don't give up till you get there.
And how can we connect with you?
Probably the easiest way is my website. It's AnnetteCopeland.com. I'm also on Facebook. And you can look for me as Annette Copeland on Facebook as well. And Instagram is Ask Dr. Annette. But yeah.
Thank you so much, Annette. You've been a total badass and I've enjoyed hearing your story.
Thank you. It was fun.
And with that, we'll end our show. To all the badass women out there staying in the arena, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, own it and get after it.
Now that you've listened to this episode of Ordinary to Badass, we want to hear from you. Go to our website, ordinarytobadass.com/podcast, and submit your own experience on how you took your life from ordinary to badass, and get the chance to be on a future spotlight episode of the show. That's ordinarytobadass.com/podcast. While you're waiting for the next episode of the show, wipe off the sweat, dust off the dirt, and get back in the arena.